Beautiful.
Hi bakers, I'm Sally, and today I'm going to teach you how to flute and crimp the edges of pie crust. Taking this step before you bake your pies actually serves two purposes. Not only does it make for a beautiful dessert presentation, it also helps seal that pie filling inside. Flair and function here. I'm using my favorite homemade pie dough recipe. This is my buttery flaky pie crust, but you can use these two methods with any pie crust, store-bought or homemade. My top tips for when you're working with pie dough are to keep it as cold as possible. Always handle it with care and take your time. I already have my dough rolled out and fit into my pie dish. This is my blueberry pie filling. I'm gonna fill this pie dough and then I'll lattice the top. I'll show you how. And then we will crimp the edges with a fork. I already rolled out the top dough for this pie. I cut it into 1.5 inch strips, and these will be perfect for the lattice top. And I kept them in the refrigerator. Again, keep the dough as cold as possible when you're not working with it. I'm finishing up my blueberry pie filling with a little butter. It just makes for a richer pie filling. One of my little blueberry pie secrets. Just adding the cold butter all over the top. Lattice top is such a classic, beautiful look for really any pie filling. Never goes out of style, and it looks a lot more difficult than it really is. So I have 5 strips across, and I'm going to roll back 2 of them, every other one, and I'm going to fit the other 5 strips across, going in the perpendicular direction. When making a lattice topping, always take your time, handle these strips with care. Pie dough can get a little delicate, especially as it starts warming up when it's out of the fridge. And these strips overhanging, I'll trim a little bit, but I want to keep a little bit of that around the edge just so I have more dough to work with when I'm crimping or fluting. This one I'll crimp. I've got some kitchen shears here, and I'm just going to trim a little bit around the edge, just so it's a little more even, okay? I like to have enough pie dough around the edge, again, just so I have more to work with when making that edge design. You can do this with a knife, but the kitchen shears just make it a little easier. You can discard these scraps or you can hold on to them. Pie dough always freezes nicely. All right, so my pie crust edge is ready to design. So first, I like to fold all of the edges in. So I'm going to roll them backwards, fold them in towards the pie filling. Rotate the pan as you go. Make it a little easier on yourself. And doing this just kind of melds those top lattice strips and the bottom pie dough together. We have some extra flour nearby if the dough starts to get a little sticky. Tighten this up a little bit, make it look a little nicer before I crimp the edges. For crimping, this is really very easy. Grab a fork and you're just going to press the fork down into the dough. And again, this is very simple, but very, very pretty. Nice way to finish up this pie before it goes in the oven. And then I always like to just take my hands and make the edges look a little even in case it got a little messy. And before I bake this, I like to add a little egg wash. And an egg wash is just an egg beaten with a little bit of milk, usually about 1 tablespoon. And I'm using a pastry brush, and I'm lightly brushing all over the top of the pie. I always like to brush the dough with egg wash before baking a pie because it adds a shimmery sheen to the crust. It also helps develop a deeper golden brown color. Just makes for a picture perfect pie. I mean, you're taking all this time to make a pie from scratch. You want it to look good. Okay, and one last addition before this goes in the oven, and this is completely optional, but I like to add a little coarse sugar for a little sparkle. Who doesn't love a little sparkle? All right, and our beautiful pie is ready to bake. And now I'll demonstrate how to flute the pie dough edges. And fluting means just giving the pie dough that wavy scalloped look. So I have an apple pie here. I already added the lattice topping, and I'm going to fold over the edges so they're ready for me to flute them. I already trimmed these a little bit, but I do like to have a little extra pie dough on the sides so I have enough to work with when fluting. Up until this point, it's the same process as you saw for the blueberry pie. And what I love about fluting pie dough edges, you don't need any special tools, just use your hands. I'm going to use my knuckle and my thumb and pointer finger for my other hand. And I'm going to pinch the dough, the edges of the dough, with my knuckle and my thumb and pointer finger. Go all around the edges of the pie. You can do this even if you have a no-bake pie filling, like a French silk pie or a banana cream pie. So I went all around the edge, and now I'm just gonna clean it up a little bit. This looks so great, and again, this is just gonna seal in the filling if you have a really juicy pie like apple pie, blueberry pie, cherry pie. And fluting and crimping these pie crust edges also works if you have a single crust pie, like a pumpkin pie or a French silk pie, one that doesn't have a top. Crimping and fluting are just such simple ways to make your pie have that special, beautiful touch. Okay, and again, a little coarse sugar, pretty sparkle. All right, this is ready to bake. I hope you feel inspired to try a new pie recipe today, and be sure to check out my other pie crust video tutorials. I have one for how to make the perfect pie dough, how to par bake your pie crust, and how to make other beautiful pie crust designs. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you feel inspired to try a new baking recipe today. Head over to my website for the full written recipe and all of my success tips. You can also ask a question right there on the recipe page, and my team and I will be happy to answer.